please.
Thank you, Etteri. Thank you for making time to come to our press conference. So we visited Colombo for the last 2 weeks, and today is our last day. And we had a very productive discussion for what we call the first review of the Sri Lankan authorities' economic program that is being supported by a 3-year arrangement with the IMF called Extended Fund Facility. As you probably are well aware, the program intends to support the authorities' ambitious reform agenda, which ultimately aims at putting public finance on a sustainable footing and creating space for its social and development program. To summarize the outcome of our discussion for the last 2 weeks, I would say that we made significant progress toward reaching a staff-level agreement with the government on completion of the first review itself. Some discussions will continue in October in Washington, D.C., but we are on a good path, I would say. To talk about the economy, overall, macroeconomic performance in the first half of 2016 had a bit of a mix of improving balance of payments, somewhat weaker growth, largely related to recent floods, and slightly higher inflation. Turning to policy, the team, which we often call the mission in the IMF, really like to commend the authorities for implementing the IMF-supported economic program under not-so-easy circumstances. At the risk of using a bit of IMF lingo, all quantitative targets through end June were met successfully. However, as this is an ongoing effort, economic program reform agenda, an ongoing effort, there are some forward-looking aspects of the program mainly related to implementation of reform tax packages that need to be addressed without further delay. We would single out 3 fiscal policy measures that are ahead of us, which require attention. First, it is important to expedite the registration of value-added tax amendments that will then be able to support revenue targets for 2016 and 2017. Next, the 2017 budget itself should be underpinned by a well-crafted and high-quality tax policy strategy which can eventually raise Sri Lanka's relatively low tax revenue to GDP ratio. Related to this, commencing the legislative process for the new Inland Revenue Act would be an important step that can rebalance the tax system toward a more efficient and equitable structure. It will also contribute to generating the resources that are needed to support the country's social and development objectives. Turning to the other pillar of macro policy, namely monetary policy, the mission welcomes the central bank's recent move to preemptively raise policy rates to maintain inflation within its target band. As a result of this, external pressures have been easing, and in this context, the mission encourages the central bank to continue its effort to rebuild international reserves and maintain exchange rate flexibility to further develop the foreign exchange market. As macroeconomic stability returns, we would encourage the government to make concerted efforts in implementing structural reforms in public financial management and in the management of state-owned enterprises. Finally, renewed effort toward greater integration into regional and global supply chains, higher levels of foreign direct investment, and enhancing prospects for private sector investment are very important for achieving medium-term macroeconomic objectives, including robust and sustained growth. Let me then close by thanking the authorities for their cooperation and hospitality, which made it possible for us to make the progress in the discussion during the last 2 weeks.